Are you there? Are you there? I can't see you. Are you there? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. My stupid little tiny hands are getting in the way again. So, hello, everyone. Hope you're having a great Sunday afternoon for most of you. So, of course, I'm starting a few minutes early. I went ahead and set the time to start at 11:45 since I'm usually coming on at that time anyway. I'm like, why don't I just do that? And I can still come on early if I want. So if you're coming in for the main topic of gardening and you want to get right to it, then just kind of you're coming in on the replay, that is, then just go ahead and move that cursor in about 15 minutes and then you can get right to the topic because I'm going to be doing some silly greetings like with my tiny hands. Hello, hello, because I think my tiny little hands are kind of cute and talking about a few other things, giving a few announcements and whatnot, and just saying hi to people that are coming in. And of course, if you didn't figure out, these hands are fake and they're just fun. I like having some fun stuff. I might start collecting some more fun stuff just to kind of keep you guys guessing on what on earth I'm going to be doing around here next. So, question though. Okay. Always like to check, make sure my sound is good, not too loud, not too quiet. And I'm wondering what you guys think about this lighting. I'm trying something a little bit different. Now, last week I started doing the two ring lights on the other side, but today instead of turning on all of my overhead lights, I'm only doing 2 rows so that it makes everything else back here not quite so bright and hopefully I don't look so washed out. So that's kind of my goal. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. So anyway, I like having my lights. Those lights, by the way, are always up there all year round. I mean, we don't celebrate Christmas anyway, but I still, for I don't know how many years, have always used string lights all through the house as lighting, especially in this room. It really kind of started in this room because, um, for those of you who don't know, this is my old dance and martial arts studio, which is why I have all these. I have 5 rows of fluorescent lights up here because it was a studio. And I used to, especially with my older students, just for fun, a couple times a year, we would have a big old slumber party and we'd have pizza and junk food and watch movies and play games. And we had so much fun. But I hated having all these fluorescent lights on for that. It just made it seem too business and class like. So I started putting the string lights up and just keeping them up year round. And then we'd have those. And then, but of course, I always still had them on during class too because it was nice. It looks nice. But mostly I use it all through the house anyway because they're cheaper on electricity and um, especially when I can just run them completely off our solar power. That definitely saves money. And yeah, so they're nice. I tend to like subdued, cozy lighting. That's just me. So the overhead lights don't get turned on. So anyway, I'm hoping this doesn't that having just the 2 rows doesn't make it too dark and it keeps me from looking quite so washed out. I've noticed that's kind of an issue. So anyway, hello to everyone coming in. Thank you, Diametra, for letting me know that. And my wool mitten and bandana lady is in here. Hi, bandana grandma. Good to see you. So I keep thinking, when I was in Danny and Wanda's live chat, I hardly ever get to make it in there anymore. But then it's like, oh yeah. I mean, I still have this weird, like, can't figure out what day of the week is some days. But then I'm like, oh, there they are. I should pop in there. Wanda's been good about popping in here on some of my live chats. I got to make sure I get back in there again. And then Bandana Grandma was in there, and we were talking about that last carousel package. So the original carousel package was started by Billy, Palmetto paratrooper, years ago. Years ago. I think it was like, I think it was before I started my channel, maybe. And then I decided years later, I decided to do one as well because I thought, that's really fun. And let's see, now was there a couple of different ones I did? I don't remember. But I know the last one I did, we had Bandana Grandma in there. I think Mary's Nest was a part of it, Deep South Homestead. We had quite a few homesteads in there. And I'm thinking we should do that again at some point. It was just a fun thing. So if you guys haven't heard of it or seen it, I still got my hands stuck in somebody's sleeve. What it was is like 10 different homesteading channels or related channels would be part of this whole thing, this whole collaboration. And so when I did it, I started off with 10 different products that we make. So like I might have had that one. I can't remember if I put in the certain little generator that we make that I can't mention. I know I put in some skin cream, some seeds. I think Patrick had a couple of his wood products in there. And then what would happen is we shipped that off to the first person on the list. Those people, oh, the Aldermans were part of it too. And also Vicky's Homestead. And they, whoever got the box first would pick out, you couldn't show what was in the box. Excuse me. But whoever got the box next would pick out 1 or 2 items out of the box, and then they would put their own 1 or 2 items in to replace. So there was always 10 items in the box, and then that would go all the way around and then end up back to the original sender, which in that case was us. And then we would show all of the items that we ended up with in the end. So they were all, thankfully, by the time it got back to us, it was all different items than what we had sent. So all of our items got removed from the box at one point. I know Amy Fuel was also a part of, I think, that last one. And I think she put in her one of her books or both of them. So that was pretty cool. So somebody got Amy's books. I already had them, so I didn't need them. So it was cool. Excuse me. Figures I'd get all, you know, that way just as I'm starting. So, yeah, seeing a lot of great people coming in here. A lot of my usuals. Good to see y'all. So, I've got 10 minutes before I get into the topic at hand. At hand. Anyway, and I wanted to, let's see. One of the things I wanted to make announcement of, I said this in my live show from my second channel, and that is that if you don't like using Rumble and one of your excuses or one of your excuses, that sounds bad. I don't mean it that way. One of your reasons is because they don't have closed captions. They have them now. I was so thrilled to see that. That was one of the last things that we were waiting for them to get in place. And so they have closed captions, they have video speed adjustments for those people who like to either speed up or slow down the video playback, depending on if the person talks too fast, you need to, like sometimes I talk too fast and you need to slow it down to understand what's being said, or you're just pressed for time and you want to hurry up and get through it. So those are some nice things that they've added ever since. And also they've had the playlist for quite a while. And I was absolutely thrilled when they started making it available that we could create playlists. That way I could start categorizing my videos and getting them in places where they would make them easier to find rather than having to scroll back through 2-3 years worth of videos to find the one you're looking for. Because you can do a search, but sometimes um, I notice this both on Rumble and YouTube, but Rumble even more so is that even if you type in the exact title name, sometimes you still can't find the video you're looking for. And if you're just putting in a topic, just a basic topic, you could pull up videos from everybody all over Rumble. So one of the tricks is for both YouTube and Rumble when you're searching for a video is put the channel name. So on YouTube, it's Rain Country, or if it's on my second channel, Rain Country 2, and then the topic. And well, you can put it in either order. You can put the topic and the channel name, or the channel name and the topic. But on Rumble, it's Rain Country Homestead, all one word. I don't know why. I think I did it that way just to specify so people know it was me, but you're forced to put it all in one word instead of having spaces over there. You can't have spaces like you do on YouTube. So that's why it's like that. But you'd have to put in the whole word, Rain Country Homestead, and then the title that, the topic that you're looking up. And maybe you'll pull up a video. But anyway, the playlist. So if you go to the playlist tabs on my channel, then you can go through those playlists and be more apt to narrow down where that topic might be if you can't find it by doing a search. So, yeah, Carol Hamilton, I saw you, one of the first people to comment in here, so that was cool. Yes, Bandana Grandma, that was fun. Living on a Dime, I don't remember if they were involved in that one. They might have been. I think I did 2 of them. Palmetto Paratrooper did the one. He was the one I think that came up with the idea to begin with, and then I was a part of a crochet related one that someone had started, and I don't know whatever happened to all those channels that were a part of that because a lot of them were yeah, I didn't follow them, but I was asked to be a part, and it was cool. It was fun to be a part of that. So, yeah, Deep South Homestead, they've hi Trina. They've always been good people. They've always been very good to us. Like Wanda was saying that night, last night was last night. I'm acting like it was, 5 days ago. That their channel was one of the first to give us a shout out within the homesteading community. And I remember thinking their channel was so massive because I was just getting started and they had 9,000 subscribers. And I tell you, that was just such a blessing. I think I almost started crying. I couldn't believe they did that. So, yeah, I only had like 1 or 2 videos up at the time, and, anyway, I was really, really blessed that they did that. And they've always been very encouraging and helpful and, um, good people, definitely good people. I've talked to Wanda on the phone several times. It's been a long time. Yeah, I haven't talked to Stacy on the phone in a long time either. We're all so busy. We don't have time to sit and chat on the phone. I'm actually not much of a phone chatter anyway, but sometimes it is nice to have a real voice. So, by the way, my son is actually working today and he leaves his dog here. So, if he happens to get home from town when I'm in the middle of the show, there may be utter pandemonium because the dogs both go absolutely ballistic, especially when it's someone they know, especially when it's their own owner. So just preparing you in case you hear, you know, utter pandemonium. That is what's going on. And hopefully we can get it quieted down quickly. I'm guessing he normally doesn't work Sundays, but I'm guessing he'll probably won't be here until after I'm done anyway. So, yes, Rebecca, hello, hello, Delia, is that what that says? Yeah. Anyway, thank you and welcome to all coming in. So I covered that about the closed caption. And then another video I had to take down. It's funny how I keep finding these, and no matter how I search, sometimes it's like somebody comments on the video and they'll mention, "Oh, how do I get a hold of this and that substance that was mentioned in the video?" And I'm like, "Oh, there's another one where I said that." And one of those was my mascara video. So I took that one down, edited out the parts where that substance was mentioned, and then uploaded it. So if you're looking for my mascara video, it's not there right now because I had to delete it, but it will be, I'll be several weeks out because I'm so far out. My videos are scheduled so far out, but it's going to be a while before it publishes. But it's still available on Rumble, and I think I have a playlist for like health and beauty, something like that. So where I have like a face powder video, which is still here on YouTube as well. And then another fun thing that I've been doing is going back over some old videos back from 2016 when I was still kind of new and trying to figure it out. And I thought the songs I chose for some specific videos, I knew they were okay to use for your like creative whatever making videos. But what I didn't realize until much later after the videos were out there was that you're not supposed to use them on monetized content. So I had to demonetize those videos. And so I was looking over these. I'm like, oh, there's some really good videos back here. So what I'm doing to help build watch time over on my second channel, which by the way, I'm a quarter of the way there. I've hit 1,000 hours of view time already on that channel. So thank you everyone who's doing that. And by the way, if you don't know about that, I have a secondary channel, Rain Country 2. It's basically a backup channel, but I'll be putting a little bit, same type of content, but trying to get more unique videos over there. So some of them are older videos I'm taking down and putting up over there. And since I can't monetize until I get the 4,000 watch hours, I figure why not put these over there? So I took them down off this channel, putting them over there. I had one publish on Friday, another one's publishing tomorrow. Again, these are like from 2016. So just keep that in mind. They're old. I mean, for for video content, they're old, but they're still relevant. The one that I happened to come across that I published on Friday was, I'm like, wow, this would just happen to be shot in December. And I'm like, it's a good topic. I'm going to go ahead and publish that right away. And then, yeah, so, and then I'll have a couple more of those coming out. So that's pretty cool. And that's a good way that I can build up watch time there, which by the way, I have also put, yeah, it's called Rain Country 2. It's linked in the description now. I have it now, so any of my newer videos over the past week have Rain Country 2 and also my Rumble channel linked right towards the top of the description box. So, or you can just look for Rain Country 2. It should be easy enough to find. It's a picture of my face where this channel, it's like kind of a profile. That one's like more front on where I'm standing in the kitchen and I'm wearing blue. Anyway, yeah, so those people who have been really helping me over there by just going to that all videos playlist and just letting it play, I really appreciate. So I'm putting all of the videos for now into that playlist so people can just turn on and let it play. So it doesn't matter if it's a short, a live show, or what, because I've done one live show over there so far. And it's definitely helping. And that's so cool. What's weird though, and really surprised the heck out of me, was seeing that they're putting ads on my videos over there, even though I'm not monetized. And they're doing mid-roll ads, which I hate having mid-roll ads, as a lot of you already know. And I have no control over it until I can officially monetize. I have absolutely no control over it. And YouTube gets 100% of the profits. But whatever. I knew I wasn't going to make any revenue anyway until I reached that 4,000 watch hours. I mean, I had no problem reaching the video content. You had to have 3 videos and 1,000 subscribers. That happened right away because I already had a good base of people, to start with. So that helped because now am I at over 4,400 subscribers over there now? I think I am, which is pretty cool. So yes, and thank you people who've also been subscribing over there. So in case you didn't know, it is just because of what's been happening to my main channel, and it's just been so crazy. I think I finally have hit a plateau, and hopefully it will at least stay there and not drop any further. We'll see, but I just don't know what's going to happen with this channel because so many crazy things have been going on here. And I can definitely see the difference with my new channel and this one that, yep, they definitely are playing games with my channel over here. So just in case I wanted to have this second channel and start building it up with other videos that aren't already here, or sections of live shows like this one that I'll take out and then edit, add photos, shorten it up, and then put it over there. And that will help build watch time, subscribers, and whatnot, so that if something happens to this one and it goes down, I'll have a place to take a lot of the videos that I already have had here and start putting them up over there because I have them saved to an external hard drive. So that won't be an issue. And even if I end up losing some altogether, it's okay. If I have to reshoot them, I'm fine with that because it's going to take me a long time to upload 2,300 videos. And I don't plan on putting up all of my videos. I won't put up any of my old this and that videos because those are kind of more time sensitive anyway. So or they're covering things that I already have standalone videos on, and I usually talk about them again in another this and that. Boy, I don't know if my throat's going to last long today. I can feel it's getting a little rough already, and I've only shot one video today, and that was a few hours ago. So it's kind of crazy. And then I should get started on the topic. I do have a couple more things I want to talk about, just mostly for fun. But let's get started on the garden stuff. So I'm really excited. I always get excited about the upcoming garden season and getting everything planned. But this year is just a little more different because this last year, I am so sorry. Sorry about the coffee. The 2024, my 2024 garden season was virtually non-existent. I had my perennials and whatnot, but I decided to give my whole garden areas, all of them, a sabbatical. So I didn't put anything in the greenhouse. I didn't plant any annuals. All I had was my perennials that came, and I just used them as needed, but I didn't harvest things to put up for long term. Nothing like that. I mean, so any excess I couldn't use immediately was either given to the chickens, given to the neighbors, given to friends, given to family, or uh, allowed, like the grapes, the wild little birds, especially the little chickadees, they love the grapes. They got a lot of grapes. I saw a lot of fat birds by the end of the season. Fat little birds all over the place. Um, Anyway, yes, the lamb's ear is a perennial and it dies back for winter and it will come back again in the spring. It's usually one of my first ones to come back. So, by the way, I forgot to say my greeting. So when I make my separate video, I have at least a greeting. So, hello everyone. Thank you for coming in. Why do I always forget my greeting when I'm sitting here this way? I think it's because it's odd. But anyway, God is good all the time. So today we're talking about the garden season 2025, or at least mostly about what I'm going to do. I'm hoping to answer a few questions as they come in. So I just had a question on lamb's ear and does it die back in the winter? And yes, it does. It is a perennial. It will come back in the spring. So anyway, what I'm going to cover is mostly just like the kind of things that the things that I'll start inside, which will be probably around February, will be when I first get started. And then the things I'll start outside and things I'll start in the greenhouse, and at least one or two new things I plan to try this year. And so, starting with the very first things I start are my tomatoes and my Chinese 5-color peppers. And I always start those in our south facing window in the living room back here, where it's the warmest room in the house. And I can put them right at the south facing window. And it's the best place. I'm thinking actually, I found that starting them with our season, our colds, the cold going later and later into the season, I think I found it's best for me to start them in maybe early March or late February. So it might be a while yet before I can start those, but I'm getting excited. I want to get them started right away. And then I might go ahead and start some more arnica seed inside from the seed I collected from my own arnica plants, because I'd really like to grow a lot of arnica. I may even think of planting some out at one or two of our other pieces of property. Probably not the last one, the mountain property, even though I'd probably do really good out there. Patrick's just doing a lot of work, a lot of clearing, making space for garden areas, greenhouse structures and whatnot. And we have some videos. I think one video is already published. There'll be at least a couple more coming out of the progress that's going on out there. But arnica, yeah, I'd like to grow a lot because it is one of the most expensive herbs to buy, which is kind of crazy because it self-seeds and grows like crazy in like Montana, especially up in the mountains. So, but it is just so great for many things. I have a video on this, but I mostly use it for breaks and sprains. So combined with comfrey, it is amazing. The two together. I even have used both of them in my muscle and joint rub, which I would also use on a sprain or a break. So, but I'm always, not always, but I do tend to sprain something. Fingers, wrists haven't happened so much since I haven't done martial arts in a while, but I do tend to seem to sprain my ankles or break a toe more than anything. So those two things. And it just amazing how fast it can heal up a broken toe. It's amazing. So I do it as a soak along with Epsom salts, and nice hot water, as hot as you can stand, and it works great. So please tell us about some herbs for digestion. Well, I have a video just on that. So you can just look on my channel, just type in the search rain country digestion, and you'll find a whole list. But some of those would be feverfew, even though I grow it mostly for pain. It's really good for helping with digestion. So is ginger. So is I think garlic is a good one, but it obviously is a lot of this is going to depend on the person. Not all things like some people do really well with things like cayenne pepper. Someone else that they might have more problems with it. So that's why I compile those lists and then put them in separate topics, separate uh, videos. And then and not only do I read the list and talk about some of the herbs, I also type the list up and then I put a link to that list for free that you can copy and paste. And then you can look up and find which ones you think are going to be best for you. So, and peppermint, pretty much any of your mints can be good for digestion. Anyway, so moving on, some other things. So the arnica, and echinacea. I'm gonna get some more echinacea going. I've been growing echinacea for years, but the germination rate, at least for me, is always really low. And I always seem to lose at least one echinacea plant every year for some reason. And so I like to have plenty of echinacea, and so I'm gonna try to get some more started. I don't know if it's our climate or what, because I know some people can grow it like crazy. It is a perennial, it'll keep coming back, but I notice here it's very sensitive. If you accidentally dig it up or you try to dig it up and move it, it doesn't come back. If it's middle of summer and it's growing really good and it gets mowed down too close to the ground, Patrick, it will die and not come back. I've had that happen a couple times there. So it's not always Patrick's fault. And then sometimes it just doesn't, because I have so much stuff growing in my garden and getting bigger every year that like, so if it's growing next to perennials like marshmallow that gets just massive and valerian, then it just struggles. If it's not getting enough light, it just struggles. So I've had to find other places to grow it where it still can get plenty of sun. But even moving it sometimes just here. So I'll be starting some more echinacea. And what else? Let's see. Oh, and by the way, if still you can keep asking questions. Again, keep putting them in all caps. If I don't answer them right now during the live or while I'm talking about a particular topic, I'll either try to get it back to it later in the show or after I'm done with this, or I will answer it in questions in either a separate video or the next live show that I do, whether it be on this channel or my Rain Country 2. I'm thinking I probably am not going to do a live show this Wednesday on Rain Country 2, but maybe the following Wednesday on New Year's Day, I'll probably do one. Anyway, yeah, so they'll get answered one way or the other. So that's why putting your questions in all caps is very, very helpful, because after the show's over, sometime when I'm ready to start writing down those questions, what I do is go back to the video, scroll through the chat and look for anything that's in all caps. And then I'll go, okay, yeah, I remember answering that. And then, didn't see this one. And then I'll write it down so I can get to it later. Let's see. Then the next thing that happens, so I start those things inside, and then about the time that it's warm enough for me to move those out to the greenhouse and get them out there, because they're growing, they're getting bigger, but it's warm. It's too cold to have them outside, but too warm to it's too cold to have them outside, but I want to get them out. So I put them in the greenhouse. So the tomatoes and peppers just stay in the greenhouse because of our cooler, very wet climate. But like other things such as corn, pumpkin, zucchini, basil, those things get started about the same time. And that's usually around April-ish, maybe May, depending on the weather, that stuff gets started in the greenhouse. And then usually with my squash and my pumpkins, any squash, zucchini, a lot of times I'll go ahead and start some outside too. I do both with those because what I find is that some years, the ones I start in the greenhouse do better than the ones I direct seed. And some years it's the opposite. I'll do this with corn as well. So I grow the glass gem corn. And with that said, I still have some Danny corn that was gifted to me years ago. And I keep forgetting I have it. So I think I'm going to try starting both in separate pots, and whichever one does best, because I can't really grow them side by side. in my small area because you don't want them cross pollinating. Whichever one does best, at least I'll be able to see how well the Danny corn does. If that does really well for me, then I will hang on to that one and grow that one and probably get rid of my other plants, my other starts, so they're not growing side by side. I mean, I at least can let them grow side by side until before they start to flower. That's where you wanna make sure that they're not growing side by side. Um, let's see. Um, what else do I do? Oh, the next thing that would happen before the stuff starting that other stuff in the greenhouse is then usually end of March or early April, I start my snow peas outside, direct seed, and my potatoes. Now, some people would say, well, snow peas you can start earlier in the season. Well, I could. Snow peas like cooler climate, but the problem is I've tried it because I know some people will start it in February, but the problem is with here, even though the temperature would be fine for the snow peas, the problem is the great amount of rain we get in the spring. So we get tons of rain from late fall clear through early spring. And what happens with the snow peas is a lot of times they don't survive. They just drown. And same thing with potatoes. It's weird because sometimes potatoes will make it through the whole winter, the ones that stay in the ground. But when I plant fresh potatoes in the ground too early in the season, they'll just it's raining so much they will just drown and I'll have to plant them again. So, and I notice year by year it kind of changes. And so that's something to keep in mind is like succession planting because a lot of times you just don't know what your weather's going to do. And so starting some at like maybe what would be normal for you earlier and then some a little later and then some a little later. I do this with beans for certain because I never know with those what's going to happen. Beans are one of the last things I plant and that's usually May and I'll just direct seed those. And yes, you can start corn inside and transplant it. I don't know why people always say you can't do that. You can. In fact, my corn does best when I do that. So what nighttime temps can tomatoes and peppers tolerate? I personally do not know. I don't know. I don't keep track of that, bandana grandma. I wish I did. I'm really terrible at keeping track of the exact temperatures. I just watch my plants. I know one year I moved my plants, my tomatoes and peppers out to the greenhouse. At the time I normally would, the weather was warming up and then it suddenly got super cold, that it was even too cold in the greenhouse. And I lost a bunch of my plants. The rest just stopped growing and didn't start growing again until it warmed up to the temperature it normally would be in there. And it took a while. I think that year they ended up being a whole month behind. It was crazy. It was crazy how cold that year was. I think well, I don't know about last year because I wasn't planting anything, so I don't know. I wasn't paying attention to that, but it seems like a year before I didn't have that problem. But you just never know. Every year can be very, very different. Does it does it help the seeds not drown or rot to use raised beds? Possibly, but not necessarily. Not here. Not here. Uh, if you don't live in an area that gets 120 to 160 inches of annual rainfall, it's really, really difficult to comprehend how much rain that is. It is, and I've shared this before. We get a lot of people that will move out here because they really believe that, oh, I love the rain. I'll love it in Forks until they live here for a year. Um, if they come in the summer, they'll be like, "Oh, it's so beautiful here. It's so green. It's so nice. It doesn't rain that much." But then once the rains come, they realize, wow. Because most people that think they get a lot of rain usually only get 50 to 60 inches, maybe 40. I mean, I think that's common for like the UK. That's about their rainfall. I think their rainfall is very similar to the Seattle area and the Oregon coast. but our rainfall is very different because we live very close to a rain forest, which of course gets a lot of rain. So anyway, but yeah, I've had things in pots that you would think would be able to be fine, like rosemary, because the pots would allow it to drain. Nope, the heavy rain killed them. So that's why I had to put them in an area where through the winter time, through the heavy rain, they don't collect that much rain. So my rosemary plants, my thyme, a lot of it's right up against the house. And those are the ones that have survived and do very well because the house keeps them a little more insulated, being right close to it, and they're not catching so much rain. And of course, that soil is built up a little higher too. So if it does get some water, it kind of drains out towards the yard that way. So it's one of those things, people, where you got to find what's going to work best for you. And just because the person the next town over, the next state over, or in your state or county, whatever, just because this method or whatever works best for them doesn't mean it's going to work best for you. Even your next door neighbor can have very different soil conditions or other things that they have to deal with. So, just because something works for someone, this is why I get really, really irritated when people come out and they're from all over the world and this is the only way to grow this, that, or the other thing. No, it's not. Maybe it's the best way for you, but and you'll say that person's living in Missouri, because a lot of people do really well in Missouri growing stuff because of the way their seasons are. That doesn't work here. In fact, as I'm really, I know Danny's just certain that his Danny corn is going to do well here, but usually any kind of seed I've got from the South like that will not germinate for us because we're too cool and too wet. But I'm going to try it. I tried to ask Danny. I said, I don't think he saw my comments. I asked twice, but it was a busy chat. Does your Danny corn grow its own scuba gear? Because it's going to need it in our area for it to survive. So anyway, let's see. Testing my soil, it's all bad. So compost and yeah. Yep. And then finding the right kind of compost. You don't have to spend a bunch of money on compost. Grass clippings do amazingly well for almost everything. They, yes, can be a little more acidic, but it just depends on how you use them. I put them around zucchini, which is a non-acid soil loving plant, but putting it on top of the soil allows it to, and rather than mixing it in, allows it to break down more slowly. It holds in moisture. And yeah, I love using grass clippings. They're free. We'll a lot of times get them since we don't have a lot of yard left here to mow, we'll go down to our other piece of property down the road. Lots of grass out there, lots. And Patrick will mow it down and it's all organic. There's nothing, hasn't been sprayed with anything. We'll rake it up, bring it over and just throw it on the garden areas. It's work, but it's free. And I know it's organic. I know it doesn't have a bunch of toxic chemicals in it. So, and I love it. Works great. So do you use any painting apps in your phone? I'm not sure. Do you mean plant identifying apps? I'm not sure what that means. So, um, okay, what else did I have here? So the potatoes, okay, and then the beans, I mentioned the beans in the May. And then if I've started, that's usually when I'll do like the squash seed outside. By that point, I've already started the seed in the greenhouse. And then about the time I'm starting my beans outside, I'll direct seeds the squash. So I'll have both. And then usually move the plants if it's warm enough from the greenhouse that have already started the squash, the zucchini, the pumpkin, and whatever squash I decide to grow that year. I'll then move them out into the main garden and transplant them. So I might put a seedling and then seeds, and then a seedling and then seeds, and then just see which ones do best, and whichever ones survive. Those are the ones that I keep, obviously. Planting apps. Okay. No, I don't use any because I've been, first of all, I've always done most everything I do here just by experience because I can't depend on pretty much anything anyone else tells me because our area is so very unique. Well, everybody's area is unique, but even people who claim this is going to be best for Pacific Northwest. Well, a lot of people don't realize there's parts of the Pacific Northwest, even parts of Washington state that are like desert. I know because I lived on that side of Washington state. In fact, there's a bigger chunk of Washington state that is very hot and very dry in the summer. It hardly gets any rain. That's the bigger side. But people think of Washington as the wet state. No, it's just a part of Washington. It's the part that's west of the Cascades. And even a lot of those parts are not near, they still don't get the great amount of rain that we get in our little small area. So that's what I'm always saying. There's always going to be a certain uniqueness about your area that you've got to learn to deal with. And so I'm not saying you can't learn from other people or apps or books. I mean, that's great. Have the books, have those things on hand. But just know that you cannot depend on those if you haven't started gardening yet. You cannot depend on those to be right. Experience is going to be the number one factor when it comes to planting and growing your garden. You're going to try, you're going to fail. You're going to try, you're going to fail. Remember, fail in quotes because it's not really a failure because you've learned that plan didn't work. So we'll try another plan. Now I know this isn't the best way. This is why I started doing the do it like planting, the squash, the corn, the zucchini, all that in the greenhouse and direct seeding, doing both. Because I don't know which one's going to work best. Because even year by year, it changes. So, and so so don't be discouraged when those things happen. It's all a learning process. And and the thing is sometimes we can become very dependent on what we know has worked for us for 5 years, maybe 10 years. And then all of a sudden you'll get some freak weather that will change everything for that year. And you just can't be discouraged. But yeah, that's another reason why you need to put up as much of your excess as you can. So whatever you're not eating immediately, put it up because you don't know what's going to happen next year. So yeah. When is it best to plant yarrow? Yarrow is whenever I'm starting a new herb. So I can only say what works for me. Okay. Whenever I'm starting an herb I've never grown before and know very little about, I always start it in very, very early spring indoors in small pots because I have no idea how well it's going to do outside. I don't know what the starts are going to look like. Um, I tried that before and it was a fail. And even if some of them did come up, I'd be like, I don't know if these are weeds or if it's what I'm trying to grow. I have no idea. So starting things like that in small pots inside gives you a better with clean soil that doesn't have other seed in it is a good way to learn what the seedlings are going to look like when they come up so that then when your plants are established and they start making their own plants from the seed that falls, you'll say, "Oh, good, I have more yarrows coming up." And yeah, because I didn't know what yarrow was going to look like when it first started coming up. I didn't know what feverfew was going to look like. Some of those things took the yarrow and the feverfew took a very long time to germinate and start growing for me. No problems anymore, especially with the feverfew. It self seeds all over the place. I've never ever had to replant feverfew ever. So, and yes, yarrow. I found out it's funny. Yarrow is a weed for a lot of people, or a weed. And I didn't find out until after I had good, huge, healthy yarrow plants growing for me that if I just go a 20-minute drive right along the coast, there's yarrow that grows wild up, not, it's just real, it's right next to the ocean, but up in the rockier areas. And I'm like, look, there's yarrow all over the place here. But see, now I know what it looks like. I recognize it. So, yeah. Uh, Okay, moving on. Oh, a couple other things. I don't know if I'm gonna do both. I might try both. Kind of do the same thing like with the corn. See which one's gonna do well. I'll probably plant them at different times, but that is barley and einkorn. I have einkorn. I have both organic, whole grains that I got from. Well, the einkorn in specific, I bought their seed pack. It was actually a little cheaper just to buy a little bag of their seeds, and it's actually a lot. And I'm gonna see. Wheat doesn't typically do well in our area, but I've had wheat just randomly grow from the stuff that I've thrown to the chickens. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, so I should try it." So I'll plant the barley first because it's typically barley is planted earlier in the season, and then it starts to get its green heads in April. At least I know that's how it is in Israel, but I don't know what that will be like here. So, I haven't decided yet when to try to plant it. I'm just gonna guess. I might even consider starting those in the greenhouse as well. And then, maybe the month later try or a couple weeks after that, plant some einkorn, and then see which ones do best for me. I'm just curious to see. And then if I mean, obviously, I couldn't grow enough on this little for those of you who are new, we do most of our gardening related stuff, chickens and all that, right here on our little shy 1/3 acre lot, corner lot in a neighborhood. But we have another piece of property down the road, and then we have another piece up the mountain. And if I can get that stuff to grow well here, then I'll know. Then what we can do is if we really need to, if it comes to that, we can till up a large section at one of these other places and then grow our own grains for that. Corn is one that it's really hard to find a good corn that will do well here. The glass gem has always done best for me, but even that from year to year is questionable, but it's a beautiful corn. I love growing it. Uh, I might get back to that if I remember. So what else? Okay, I'm probably going to talk a little bit about some of my perennials, but the other thing I'm hoping to, excuse me, the other thing I'm hoping to do this year is probably going to take out the quince tree. The quince has not been productive enough. The cherries are still taking a while to really put out cherries, and so is the plum out there, but I know the plum can do well. But surprisingly, the quince has just not been happy. I got a couple of really healthy looking quince off it the first year, and ever since it's just pretty much done nothing. And I've decided that I've got rhubarb. I don't need the quince. So I'd rather have pears. And so you got to have two pear trees. And I want to do one Asian and one maybe Bartlett type pear here. They're, they our local nursery will get in the types of fruit trees that will are most likely to do best here. But even then, you're still never really certain if that's going to work. But I would like to have pears. I like pears. Patrick isn't a huge fan of pears, but I really like them, especially Asian pears. And um, pear butter, in my personal opinion, is better than apple butter. I love pear butter. And pear also makes a great vinegar. It's just as I mean, it can get just as strong, nice, good scobies on it, just like apple and peach do. So no, I haven't tried electroculture, and I'm really not interested, especially again, considering the great amount of rain we get. It's just I'm not interested in that. There's always some newfangled thing coming out, but again, it comes down to me trying and doing what I know works best. Like, I have followed so many times people's advice for slugs and, "Oh, this is what it," and the one I get most commonly to the point that it's like, I'm, like, tired of hearing it is the beer in dishes. I've tried it. I've tried it several different ways. Again, When you live in a place that gets that much rain, you can't just put beer in dishes and expect it to work because it gets watered down immediately. So I've tried doing it in such ways that the beer would be not catching rainwater. It's still pretty much, I might have got a slug or two. But when you live in an area with this much rain, not only are the slugs very, very tenacious here, they are, what is the word I'm looking for? There's a massive amount of them. They're everywhere. However, the number one thing that has really been the answer to control our slug population have been my chickens. And no, I don't want ducks. Chickens will eat the small little slugs, especially if you train them young, they will. And I've got when I got my very first chickens, I started training them young to eat slugs, and they do. And they especially love the baby slugs and the slug eggs, the larva. They love all that stuff. And it's changed everything. And then the places where my chickens don't get to free range, I use the second best thing was uh what's it called? Not sluggo. What is it? The one it's natural. It's I mean, if your chickens ate it, it's not going to hurt them, but it's expensive, so you don't want your chickens eating them. I've seen my chickens eat them, thinking I had it in a place where they couldn't get to, and they stuck their head through the fence and ate it, but I kind of freaked out, but oh, what is it? They're little white pellets. Is it Sluggo? Maybe it's Sluggo. The little white pellets, and it's approved for organic gardening. So, yeah. So the pear trees, the einkorn, and the barley, and then the Danny corn are the 4 things I'm hoping to do new this year. Now I just wanna share just so you guys know the things that I already have. Yes, it is Sluggo. Okay, I was thinking that's what it was, but there's another one that has kind of a similar type name. But anyway, let me just read off the fruits that we already grow that do really well for us, and that would be our apples, blueberries, strawberries, raspberries, blackberries, but we have blackberries we grow here, but we also have wild blackberries. 2 different, we have the wild blackberries, which are the tiny ones that come on first, and then the Himalayans that grow at our other piece of property. Those are the best, both of those. And so we get plenty of blackberries, currants, cherries, plums. I'm probably forgetting something. And then we can also forage for salal huckleberries, thimbleberries, and salmonberries. My least favorite of those being salmonberries. They're pretty, especially when you see the red and the orange together, the red ones and the orange ones. It's pretty. And I've made a jam out of 'em, mixing them with, they just don't have a ton of flavor. That's why they're not my favorite. But I've made a jam using rhubarb. So it would add flavor, and that was pretty good. It was pretty decent. But we got salmon berries that grow at our other piece of property, but I don't usually do anything with them. Let's see. So we have that. And then for herbs, I have, there's no way I'm going to remember all of the herbs I grow. I wrote some down to help me, but these ones I'm going to list off are they're all perennial. So we've got, you know, all of my mints, peppermint. I used to have spearmint, but I decided I didn't like it that much. I have chocolate mint, love that one. Very similar to peppermint, just has a little that hint of chocolate flavor to it. I have mojito mint, and there's another mint. Well, I have a lot of mint plants, but another mint tasting mint, and I'm sure I have one more and I'm forgetting what it is. But then other types of mints, they're in the mint family. The Lamicae would be the horehound, the oregano, the sage, uh, thyme, lemon balm. What else? I said oregano, right? I think I already said nettle. I grow nettle here rather than going to forage for it, just to keep things easier and help it to not take so much time. I also grow valerian, which, always comes back on its own. Marshmallow. Those were both kind of difficult to start, but once I got them going, I've never needed to plant anymore. It's crazy. I get new plants coming up every year. And so I usually dig them up and give them to someone. Let's see. Elderberry. I have the elderberry. I could have counted that in the fruit, but I count it as an herb because I use it for medicinal purposes. Obviously, both the berries and the flowers. Let's see. I said horehound. Borage comes up on its own. I don't transplant that. It is an annual, but it always comes up on its own. Though I'm curious to see what will happen this year because even though it always comes up, the chickens love it. And since they had free range of the garden where it typically comes up everywhere, they ate all the baby plants. So there was nothing to drop new seed. So I'm curious to see if maybe there's still seed in there somewhere that will germinate. If not, I have some seed I can plant. And then I have garlic it's just always out there. I probably use the greens a lot more. And walking onions. I have yet to harvest any walking onions. I've just been wanting to allow them to grow for a few years and fill up one of the boxes that Patrick made for me out front. And then I'll probably start harvesting them a little at a time and then just let them keep growing. So, horehound is great for like sore throats and coughs, but so is marshmallow. It's just another one of those herbs, but it has a lot of other benefits that I'm going to forget off the top of my head. So I did a video on that, a separate video. And after initially, I wasn't going to worry too much about growing horehound until I learned more about it. And because I was thinking, well, I have elderberry, I have marshmallow, I have this, I have that. And I thought, wow, this also has these benefits. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can grow this too. So it is one that gets added to my elderberry syrup along with the marshmallow, the echinacea, and more, and spices, yummy spices. So let's see who else is in here. What about elderberry? Yeah, okay. You must have asked that before I said elderberry. So yeah, I grow those too. Yeah, that's what I have written down. But I have so many other herbs I know. Well, like the yarrow. I didn't mention the yarrow. I didn't write down the feverfew. Those are all perennials that come back. Then I have my annuals herbs that I plant, like calendula. Calendula can be a perennial depending on where you plant it and where you live. I've had some come back and do really well if they grew in an area that stayed pretty protected during the winter. But I always start new calendula plants every year, and amaranth. Amaranth is a grain, but I grow it more for the leaves because they're a great, very, very healthy green. They have a nice mild flavor that goes well in salads, stir fries, anything you want to use it in as a green. For those who don't like spinach, they might like amaranth leaves better. So, okay, Michelle, I understand. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on this time of year for a lot of people. So I understand. Thanks for dropping in there during the time you were able to be here. Appreciate that. So, okay. Now I actually already started about how to garden where you're at. I just kind of ended up on that topic because of all the questions people will ask about, well, how do you do it? Well, how you do it is just you start. The best way to learn is just start. So let me share with you a little story about how I started. I had actually it was before we even had kids. Patrick had built a little greenhouse and we were growing tomatoes in there and a few other things. But that greenhouse, it was a Quonset hut style. The plastic didn't cover, whatever it was we used on there. It didn't make it through to another season. So Patrick restructured the whole thing and was going to make a greenhouse. This is out where the playhouse, where I grow my snow peas. And I didn't bring that in here. And the chicken coop all are now. But back then, that would have been the best spot for a greenhouse. And so he built the framework and we were going to invest in some, I think it's like a triple wall plastic. at that time. This was back in like 1991 or something like that. Well, money was tight and that stuff was expensive and we never got around to it. So then finally, he ended up building a playhouse there because then we had kids and we put in a pool and then he built a separate greenhouse. That's the one I have now right up against the shop. It's not the best for catching sunlight, but it works. And anyway, and that's been a good place for us. But anyway, that was a start. And then the greenhouse that he built was strictly for growing, up next to the shop. I just grew tomatoes in. I just wanted some good tasting tomatoes, and you can't get them in the local stores. They're always you can get tomatoes, but they always lack flavor. And so once I started growing my own tomatoes, it's like, man, it's hard to have to buy tomatoes anywhere else. So that was the most important thing for me at that time because I do a lot of tomato based stuff. All my Italian sauces, whether it be for pizza, homemade lasagna, homemade pizza, homemade lasagna, homemade ravioli, and the like. Did I say lasagna? That too? Spaghetti. I don't know what I've said already. So I can go through a lot. Then you have the salsa, and I prefer red tomato salsa over green tomatillo salsa or green salsa verde. I've grown tomatillos, and they did pretty well here for a couple of years. And then I kind of gave up on them because I decided I really like tomato salsa better than salsa verde. Salsa verde is good. I just like tomato better. Personal choice. Like the color better too. So at any rate, then in whatever year it was, 2012, 2013, I think it might have been 2013, we decided that it's time to, we started really paying attention what was going on out there, with the food, with the everything. I think it's time we start trying to expand on what we have and do more than just tomatoes. And I had this gap, this space that we were trying to grow raspberries in at the time, just for the sake of having raspberries. Because it's crazy. Raspberries can grow good here in our area, but if you were to buy them in the store, you get a tiny little amount like this, and they're just horribly expensive. Same thing with the blackberries, and blackberries grow wild here, and I think it's crazy they sell them in the store. I think they sell them in the store for all the tourists that come through, and they're just horribly expensive. So growing raspberries here makes sense. But for whatever reason, never could get them to grow really well in that area. They did one year, and then they up and died. And so what we did was we took that area, and all I had at the time, we didn't have a rototiller. I just had a shovel. Didn't have compost. I'm like, I'm just gonna do it. So I just took a shovel and dug up that area between the greenhouse and our deck. And it was a lot of hard work. The soil was very heavy, and pulled all the sod out and just started sticking stuff in the ground to see what would happen. Amazingly enough, some things didn't grow or didn't grow well, but I had a crud load of snow peas. I was reading on the package that the snow peas would only grow to like 4 feet. They kept growing and they kept growing. And Pat had to keep just kind of throwing something together. It was just kind of a mess just to give them something to keep climbing on because they ended up like 9 feet tall. And then I also, Jerusalem artichokes, I tried them that year. And of course, they'll grow on just about anything. And we did them one year. Wasn't crazy enough about them to want to keep growing them. But it is a good thing to grow, because, obviously the roots are gonna have a lot of nutrition. They can make you very, very gassy. You gotta cook them very, very good. And, they just put out a lot of tubers. The greens can be very good for your livestock, chickens, your sheep, your goats, whatever, and they'll eat them, and it's very healthy for them. So it is a good homesteading plant for those who like it. It just wasn't worth it for me to use my precious space for those. But the snow peas, I learned they did well. I learned that other things did not do so well, just being tossed in the soil without any compost, without any uh, add-ins to it, and yeah, but I learned. So, from there on, I just kept trying. I kept trying new things. I kept trying different things. Using wood shavings out of Patrick's shop and whatever, the grass clippings and so on, and just leaves. Those are the things we use as, garden amendments, especially in the fall. Throw all that stuff on there, let it break down through the winter, and that kind of stuff works great for us, and it's cheap. It's free. It's free. I The only thing I will buy from time to time is blood meal because of the blueberries I was growing in pots. I'm still growing some blueberries in pots, but they got too old and uh their roots started to rot. Once they filled up the pot with their roots started to rot. They did great for like 7, 8 years, and then one by one they started dying. I still have 3 that are hanging in there, and the 4th one I'll leave those 3 old ones in there. The 4th one is newer. I'll transplant it out in the garden. But at any rate, I would add the blood meal to that since they were in pots just to make sure they were getting plenty of extra. But blue any of your berries love. If you have chickens, get the this is why I wouldn't want to use sand in my chicken coop, because the straw, the leaves, the wood shavings, whatever it is I'm throwing in there as a deep litter, I shovel that out. I throw it in the garden beds, especially in the areas where I'm going to go corn, potatoes, berries, and whatnot. It's got all that chicken poop in there, and it's going to break down, and it's free. So, well, virtually free. I mean, I usually a lot of times we'll buy straw, but sometimes we'll throw grass clippings in there too, as long as they're dry, and just let all that stuff break down and shovel it out. Put in some fresh bedding, and yeah, that just works really great. And I don't know that I'll keep buying the blood meal. It is a great fertilizer, especially for acid loving plants, but I don't think it's necessary with all the chicken poop I get, all the grass clippings I get, and the coffee grounds. Because I throw coffee grounds on any acidic loving plant, which is usually especially anything in a pot, any berries. So my strawberries, my blueberries, my currants aren't, well, the currants in the backyard are in pots, but actually not. They look like they're in pots, but the roots have since grown through the bottom of the pot because their cedar is rotted out, and now they're growing into the ground, which I'm totally fine with. And we get a ton of currants. So, fartichokes. That isn't that true? So true. Um, okay. Whoops. I made the dog start barking. Got a little too loud, a little too excited. So anyway, let me go back and see if there was any other garden related questions. Have you tried potato onions? No, never even heard of those. Potato onions. Interesting. Squirrels love sluggo. Think it makes them a little drunk. Oh, that's funny. Okay, what about elderberries? Do I grow elderberry? Yep, answered that. Let's see, what else here? Ubiquitous. I think somebody was throwing that out there thinking it was the word I was looking for, which wasn't, but might have been close. Okay, I'm just sorry. I'm just looking to see if there's any. So besides marigolds, sage, nasturtiums, are there other pest controlling flowers? It really depends on the pest. So if you're talking to things like mammals, like rabbits, deer, and so on, usually anything with a stronger smell, especially a citrusy or minty smell, can be helpful. So your lemon balm, your peppermints, uh, that kind of thing. As far as bugs, I know there's more. Nasturtium, marigolds. Well, a lot of your bugs don't like those minty things either. The peppermints and the lemon balm and so on. So usually you're pretty safe with anything that has got a citrusy or minty smell or flavor. So there might be lots of mullein all over Washington, but it's not typical on our side of the mountains. So I don't know if North Song is still in here. It took a lot of trial and error for me to get mullein to grow here, and what it actually the way I was finally able to get it to grow was to get some acclimated seed from a friend who was kind enough to share the seeds from her plant that she had brought over from Eastern Washington because it grew great over there because opposite climate, absolutely opposite climate. So, east of the mountain range, you have hot, dry summers. You get 4 seasons in most of those areas. Here, you have 1 season, cooler and wet all the time. Well, summer can be warmer. We can sometimes get some really hot days. Really hot days for us are between 80, 90 degrees, which sounds like nothing if you lived like living in Wenatchee, it got hotter over there, but it's drier over there. So over here, when you're used to cold and wet, and then you have the humidity on top of it, it is when we have those hot days, it can be pretty miserable. But thankfully, there's not very many of them. So anyway, mullein doesn't tend to like the water here. It might not mind cooler temperatures, but it doesn't like our great amount of rain. However, we've been doing good. I don't know why the dogs are going ballistic yet again. Justin is not here. Who knows? They probably saw somebody walk by out the window. Oh, how dare they walk down the street? Good gravy. They're just, I guess as irritating as it is, it's at least nice to know that when we're gone, it would make this people a little less likely when they hear all that racket to want to try to break in. Anyway, of course, anybody who would know us would know it wouldn't be a good idea to break in anyway. Oh, hi, Darlene. Oh, I don't have you as a moderator. Oh, wait. Oh, that's Darlene, right. Hi, Darlene. I recognize you too, though. Appreciate you being here. I was wondering why, because I know I have Darlene, the other Darlene, why her last name just totally, I blanked it out. Just blanked it out. I know I have her set as a moderator. So, okay, I'm headed to Washington, both west and east, wondering what to forage when I was there. Do you think mullein could be foraged? Maybe in eastern Washington, probably, but not over here. Now, I do have some healthy mullein plants. I was so grateful that those worked out for me. I didn't harvest anything off them this last year. They got their first flowers this last year. But I tell you what, eastern Washington, it's really hard to find berries to harvest. I remember when I was a little girl wishing I lived on this side of the mountains because I knew that's where all the berries grew. The blackberries and the thimbleberries. And I mean, just love berries. But then again, over in eastern Washington, we can grow peaches like nobody's business. Love peaches. And we've tried to grow peaches here. And even the peach trees that were supposed to do good here just didn't. We had this one peach tree. I don't know how many years we had it. In the whole time we had it, it got 2 peaches. One year, one another year. They were both amazing peaches. They had just incredible flavor. Patrick and I split them, but they only got about that big. And maybe once every 3 years it would get a peach, and it was like, okay, it's time for that tree to go. So that's where, when I get my pear trees, which I hope to do, that's where one of the pear trees is going to go, is where we dug up that peach tree a couple years ago. And then where the quince tree is now, that's going to come out. I might still save the quince tree and just put it out at the other property just in case. But that's where the other pear tree is going to go. So, yep. In fact, when I was a young teenager living in Wenatchee, we lived in this one. Mom and I lived in this duplex that it was weird because it had this kind of little garden area out back that had just a bunch of just random trees and shrubs and stuff. But if you went all the way to the back, so we didn't know this right away. And I was 16 years old. I was ticked at my mom about something. Who knows why? I was a teenager. And I just needed to get away. So I went all the way to the very back to where the chain link fence was. And I'm standing there pouting, thinking about how horrible my teenage life was. And I'm looking at this tree, And all of a sudden, I was no longer mad at my mom because I saw little tiny peaches growing on this tree, and I was so excited. And then later, we realized there was a second peach tree, and it was so great. So while we were living there in the summer, we had some amazing peaches, and mom didn't can, but we would spend a lot of time peeling those peaches and using, what was it she used? The Fruit Fresh or something. I don't even know what that stuff is made out of, but that's what we did. And we'd freeze a crud load of them up, and they were so good. So I miss being able to just have peaches like that. That's what I miss about living in Wenatchee, is that kind of stuff. Oh, Patrick's in here? Well, hello, Mr. Rain. Yes, Usnea grows wild here. It grows on our other piece of property. It tends to like our alder trees quite a bit. So if I see any when we're down there in the summertime, I'll harvest what I can. Some of it's up really, really high, and I figure I'll just let it grow. When I gets to a point where I really need it, I'll just throw a ladder up here and the tallest ladder where I can feel safe getting onto, and go up there and harvest it. Yeah, sage would grow really well in Eastern Washington, but it grows really well here too, even in our very wet climate. I haven't had to do anything special with it. Just the rosemary and the thyme, especially the rosemary. That one really, really does not like our rain. But now I get far more rosemary than I could ever use. I'm always put up a ton of rosemary, and I can have rosemary last me for years. Let's see. Have you ever severely pruned your semi-dwarf? If that question is for me, I don't remember, because I have had our peach trees were both of them. We had a dwarf peach tree, and then we had a semi-dwarf. I don't remember if I did a whole lot of pruning on those. I know they were one thing I loved about them is they were so beautiful when they'd get their foliage in. They look so tropical. I loved them so much. I love the way they look. But the dwarf peach tree, I had it in a greenhouse because it came up from California. My father-in-law got it for us. So I decided I think I better put it directly in the greenhouse, which was a good call. And it would get peaches, but they were never very good peaches. And come to find out, my father-in-law got the same peach tree for himself, and he said the same thing. Even in California, I thought maybe it was just our area, and no, the peaches were just never very good. I tried transplanting outside to see, after several years, to see if it'd do any better. No, it ended up just dying out there. And then the other one, like I said, the other one got, in the whole however many years we had it, got a 2 whole peaches, amazing peaches, but yeah. And I have never tried growing loquats. Aren't they a type of citrus, like a kumquat? I don't recall. I've heard it before. Yes, usnea and mullein are both very good for respiratory, both of them. And I like having both. I mean, I figured if I never could get the mullein to grow, oh, well, I've got usnea. I'll be all right. But I do like having both. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that here's the thing about growing herbs, and I've covered this a lot, is that um, snow mullein, does it last? I don't know anything about that. I would assume being called snow mullein, maybe it does. That's why snow peas are called snow peas, because they don't mind snow. They just don't like as much rain as we get. So you got to plant them at the right time of year. Um, anyway, having more than one type of herb for the same type of ailment is always a good idea, because you're not going to know, especially if there's more than one of you. Because what's going to work for you may not work for your significant other, or for your children, or for your grandchildren. So having 2 or 3 different types of herbs that have similar functions, I recommend it if you have the space. If you don't have the space, find the herbs that work for you and grow those. Start with those, and then make the most of it. Yes, nettle is amazing. It's why it's one of the very first, and I have a video just on nettle. So remember, people, I have a playlist. It's actually pretty long, where I break down the benefits of a whole bunch of different herbs and more. And nettle was one of the first herbs I started growing because of its many benefits. Mostly at that time, it was because, well, it's highly nutritious, very, very nutritious. So I try to add it to as many meals as I can and cook with it. But I started growing it mostly for the sake of the fact that it's very good for thyroid health. And with us going off of our thyroid medicine back then, I was trying to add as many things to our diet that I knew would nourish the thyroid and help get it working properly the way it should. And we did it with, getting rid of anything with fluoride, like not drinking the city water because back then they fluoridated, and starting to collect our rainwater, getting rid of any Teflon pan that I had. That, even if it's hex clad, which is a new thing now, that's Teflon. Okay, it's expensive, and I feel sorry for anyone who invested a lot of money into it or got it as a gift. It's got the polyteflofluorine. I don't know if that's the whole name or not. Anyway, fluorine. It has fluorine in it. So you got to get rid of all that stuff if you're trying to heal your thyroid and you want to protect your glands up here as well. The pineal gland. Very, very hard on the pineal gland. So yeah, that's why I started growing nettle, was for the high nutrition content and for the fact that I knew it would be good for our thyroid. And so that is why it is the number one herb that goes in my mixed greens that I dry and then try to add to every dish that I can. So when it's coming in fresh, I'll try to use as much of it fresh as I can, but I'll dehydrate up a bunch and then use it throughout the year. But I throw other herbs in there too, other greens that I'm growing, even strawberry leaves, just whatever's doesn't have too strong of a flavor, and I can dehydrate and throw into my food and get the nutrients from it, especially those minerals. Okay, sorry. Dead space. We don't like dead space. What is a good hard copy book for homestead butchering? I'm not the one to answer that one because we don't have any books like that. As far as butchering our chickens, we went and helped some friends butcher their chickens, and that's how we learned. Uh, so I'm sure it's a good idea to have some books. Hopefully, somebody in the chat can answer that question. It is a good question. We should probably have some on hand in case we ever need them. But a lot of our learning of that kind of stuff, we learn by doing that stuff with friends. It's great because usually it works out really good because you also end up with some more meat to go in your freezer. It's like, here, you helped me do this. Here's some meat to take home and put in your freezer. Yay! That's always a good thing. Like we had a friend who got an elk one year and really wanted some help processing their meat. They had a grinder and they had all that stuff. And so we went out and helped them and ended up with a whole bunch of meat to go in our freezer. It was so wonderful. And yeah, yes. So I've been using stainless and cast iron. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, for me, it's the stainless steel, cast iron, and glass. So I have a lot of Corel ware. It just depends on what I'm cooking, what I'm baking. But usually, if I'm roasting something, I'm using a stainless pan. I have those Farberware ones I bought a few years back, and I love them because they're a good size. So I can put a good sized chicken in there and some other things. I did bake up a little small chicken the other night, and since it was small, I used one of my Corel pans that I got from my mom that has a lid on it. Anything that comes with its own lid. So, and it's all glass. I'm cool with that. So, yeah, and then cast iron for everything else, So for baking breads and whatever, making like I just made some chicken fried rice and I usually do that in I always do that in cast iron. So let's see. I learned from Heidi that if you heat the cast iron first, then the eggs don't stick. Usually I'll heat that up and I'll usually add some butter, but it's also about making sure your pan is well seasoned. And it's best if you season it yourself rather than depending on whatever they put on it. Um, and sometimes it's just that you just keep cooking in it to season it, and you try not to scrub all that seasoning off when you go to clean it. But I have some videos on cast iron care. Just know that the way I take care of my cast iron is going to be different than the way somebody else takes care of their cast iron, and it can be a very controversial subject that can cause fist fights to break out. It is so dumb in my personal opinion because you got to find what works best for you, just like I'm always saying, if it works, then do it. But I use my favorite things to season with are the palm shortening is the best. And then second to that is the coconut oil, the not the virgin coconut oil, but the refined coconut oil. And then if I'm cooking eggs, I throw butter in there anyway because butter is yummy and it's good for you. Okay. It's got vitamin D. It's got, I just had a blank. It's got the good stuff in there. Selenium. I think that's what it was I was thinking of. Heat and oil, nothing sticks to my cast iron. So yeah. Avocado oil is a good one too. But for seasoning, I usually look for it used to be people would use Crisco, but a lot of us know that Crisco is not a good idea. But that was the common way you would to season your pan was with Crisco in a really, really hot oven. And basically it will just what is it? Patrick, help me out here. What's the word? Polymerize, I think. Whatever the fat is that you're going to put in there and it also soaks into the pan, and over time that really the more you use it, the more stick free it becomes. I love my cast iron. And yeah, I have all kinds of different sizes. So sorry, my eyes are really bad today. I think that was it for that. There was something else I was going to mention. Oh, so I was talking about the fried rice. So this is nothing more to do with gardening, but we already kind of got off that topic anyway, didn't we? I'm going to start experimenting. Like I do a lot, I make a lot of meals where I use foods, separate ingredients that I've dehydrated, vegetables, meats, and so on. But I'm going to start experimenting. I'm going to be making a bunch of dishes here that I'm going to then take a small amount of and then dehydrate the finished dish, whatever we're not eating, right? Just set that aside and dehydrate that. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is the chicken and vegetable fried rice I made the other night. I'm going to take some of that and dehydrate it. I'm going to be making some, just the whole thing, the everything in there. I'm going to take some, I'm going to make, because I still have chicken, some chicken Alfredo, in the pasta, and just have that all mixed together, the sauce, the noodles, and everything. I'm going to try dehydrating that. Excuse me. And then maybe something else. I might just stick all this stuff in the freezer until I'm ready for it. And if you're anything with meat in it, it's better if you freeze it first after you've cooked it anyway. And that way, when you go to dehydrate it, you'll know that when you're ready to use it, it'll be nice and crispy and it will rehydrate. If you cooked up, let's say I did the chicken fried rice with the chicken I'd only baked but hadn't frozen it yet, after cooking it, then when I go to rehydrate that chicken fried rice, the chicken would be really, really tough. And it would be hard to chew. It might still taste good, but it'd be tough. But once you freeze, I know I say this all the time. Some of you are probably sick of hearing it, but I want to make sure people get this because it's such an easy trick to do. So you don't have to have a freeze dryer if you can't afford one or don't want one. But you want to be able to dehydrate meat and have it turn out easy to rehydrate and not be chewy because you're not wanting it for jerky in this case. Freeze it after you cook it, just for a day or two, then take it out and dehydrate it. It works great. It's just amazing. I've tried it with so many different types of meats, and it's so great. turkey, chicken, roast, corned beef. Oh my goodness. And as is, it makes a great snack. The corned beef one was hard to not want to just because it was so tasty and crunchy. But anyway, so my point is I'm gonna be trying to do a few different dishes. So I think what I'll do, because I don't want to run my dehydrator, because I'm going to use the electric dehydrators for this, or one of them. And I don't want to run it for just one thing since we don't have enough solar power for me to run it. So I'm going to wait till I have enough things to put something different on each tray. I've already done soup. That turned out great. So I'm going to do a few more dishes and then just experiment with them, rehydrate them, see how they turned out. And then I'm going to do a video on it and just give you some ideas of what you can do with dehydrating. I like to really focus on that because I know there's a lot of this push for the freeze dryer. No offense if you have one, that's great. If you can afford it, you want it and you love it, awesome. That's wonderful. However, not everyone can afford it. People want to find out what they can do with their dehydrator, especially since you can buy, I got two of these dehydrators were still a fraction of the price of the smallest freeze dryer. And I can put a lot more food in these things. So, and I don't have to run them for 24 hours. In most cases, I don't. Usually 10, 12 hours does it, sometimes 14. And if you gotta stop the process in the middle, you can just start it again. You don't have to start all over from the start like you do with a freeze dryer. So this is why some of the reasons why I'm always going back to this. So anyway, my point is I wanna see how many different dehydrated meals I can make and that then rehydrate well. So that would be something that would not only save space in your pantry, if you wanted it to be something that you could pack and go with, whether it be something you keep in your rig for emergencies, you'd have to have water. But some of the stuff's actually pretty tasty to, like I said, the meat, the corned beef, to just snack on as is anyway. But you still need water because it could dry out. You don't want to end up dehydrated yourself. But uh but also if what was I going to say? Camping. To take camping, hiking, whatever. So I'm really kind of excited about trying this. I don't know why I haven't thought to do it sooner with meals because I'm always just dehydrating, just like with candy, and I like individual ingredients so I can throw them together however I want. But then the more I'm thinking, uh-oh, is Patrick getting in trouble? I see Diametra's telling him to get over it. I find that offensive. Yeah, okay. Duh. Diametra, I have my skillet. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. Um, typically, bandana grandma, yes. I will slice the meat up into smaller pieces. Typically. Yeah, because otherwise, once it's dry, it's gonna be harder. It's usually crispy anyway. You could probably just break it up. But yeah, like with the corned beef, I did chop that up into smaller pieces. Uh, but anyway, yeah. So the ready to go meals is what I'm looking at, and I'm really excited about trying this and hoping to do a video down the road. I have no idea how long it's going to take for me to do it, but I just want to share that with you. I want to try it, but hey, you guys can try it too. So my thing is, if I've never done it before and I don't know how it's going to turn out, I start with a small amount. So what I'm going to try to also keep track of with this is the amount that I'm dehydrating. So let's say one I do like a half cup of each of those things before it's dried. Then dehydrate it, see how much I have left, but then I'll know also if I've got a half cup here, I most likely am going to need a half cup of water to rehydrate it to its original volume. And that's usually going to involve hot water in that case, but you want to eat it hot anyway, right? So isn't that the way MREs are done? I don't know, Patrick. You would know better than me. And I know you're in here. I've never eaten an MRE. We have a couple that somebody gave us, but we've never used them. So I have no idea how good they are. But I think you just add hot water. Please show us ready meals. I wouldn't have to cook every meal every day. Yeah, I'm excited about trying it. Now, I do have some ready-made meals. I don't do a lot of that, like I said, but I still like having a few. So one of those being, the homemade chili that I've canned, homemade soup that I've canned. I've also done homemade meatballs that I've canned, and then all I have to do is make the gravy, which usually, thank you, save Patrick from the skillet fund. That is awesome, darling, and thank you. That is both hilarious and appreciated. So, so Patrick, you have people on your side. You should be grateful. Oh, anyway, I don't know. The question, Mr. Rain, was about the MREs. Isn't it like hot water you add to them? I'm assuming. Um, anyway, so yeah, the meatballs, what I was saying about that is like, if I'm making biscuits and gravy for breakfast, I'll take whatever gravy is left over and then put it in a glass bowl and freeze it. And I'll keep adding to that until it's full. And then the next time I'm in the mood for the meatballs and the white gravy together, or you could even use the meatballs in, like, if you want spaghetti and meatballs. But, a lot of times we're with the meatballs, we're thinking of meatballs in a white gravy, and then I serve it over rice. All I have to do is thaw out the gravy and then throw the meatballs in, heat it through, and then cook some rice, which only takes 20 minutes. So, yeah, it's an easy meal. It's not like a one dish, you can just pull it out and heat it up and it's ready like you can the jar chili or the jar soup, but it's still a very simple meal. And I love doing it that way. And that way I'm not having to throw out my gravy or let it sit in the fridge and forget about it until it spoils. So, um, anyway, yeah, I love it when I think of sometimes these thoughts come to my mind that I can do something like that. I'm like, "Oh." So, yeah, I'm really excited about the dry thing. And also, if you don't know, I've even taken the home can or taken my homemade chili and then, just instead of canning it now, because I have a lot of I still would like to always have some jars of home canned chili, but um, it takes just as long. So, okay, now what I do is I just dehydrate the excess chili. And I find it takes just as long to add the water, heat it up, and rehydrate the chili that's already been cooked and everything, as it does to basically heat up or almost, well, it takes a little bit longer to heat up a jar of chili that's already hydrated, that hasn't been dehydrated. And so, and same thing with a soup. You just add your soup mix, basically, you've dehydrated the soup, add some water in there, heat it through, you got soup. It's like, it rehydrates pretty quickly. It's great. I love it. So let's see. I like the old sea rations peanut butter. Oh, I tell you, when my mom was doing foster care, so I was about 16 years old when mom decided to start doing foster care. And she was an amazing foster mom to those kids. And she started off with mostly teenage girls and started taking in some younger kids as well. That's actually how my baby brother came around because he came into our home as a 2-month-old baby. And now my baby brother is he's 18 years younger than me. So, oh, good grief. Does that mean he's 40? He can't be that old. Anyway, I was 18 when he came into our home, but that's where my baby brother Joe came from. So, anyway, when mom was doing the foster care, she we could go to the, what do you call it? The food, mm, why am I drawing a blank on everything today? Where they have the excess food and they give it out at a food bank or something. You guys know what I'm talking about. Uh Food something, usually, like, around here it was always, we I used to go get some of it. It was usually just butter, and I don't remember what else. There wasn't much that they offered here. Now they do a lot more, I guess, for people who need it, who go down there and get the food. Commodities. Thank you, Mr. Rain. See, you're useful. I appreciate you. And the MREs are made quite a bit different, or quite a bit pasta, oats, high calorie. Did you answer the question about the hot water? I didn't see it. Anyway, the commodities. So back to the commodities. So when we used to get it here, me and my sister-in-law would go down there just so we get the free butter. And uh I know there was like one or two other things we could get. I just don't remember what it was. But when mom was doing foster care, man, she could get so much great stuff, and here's the funny thing, a lot of it, like the cereal, it would be, like, in a white box, it'd be supposed to be, like a brandless well, if you read, it was made by the same people that make the Chex, and that's what it was Chex, it tastes exactly the same everything, it was just they packaged some up just for commodities, but we'd get, like, a big 5-pound block of white cheddar. We get so much great stuff. That was one of the great things about mom doing the foster cares. We could get yeah, the government cheese was so good. I was amazed of the was first time I ever had white cheddar was when we got it for free from the commodities. We get so much great stuff. I was amazed. Really great stuff. So, and people, if you need to, anybody can get some of that stuff. It just the size of your family and different things can vary in your area on what you get and how much. But I know down here I've heard people getting like fresh fruits and vegetables even. I'm like, "Really? That's kind of a shocker. I didn't know that." So that's really cool. Yes, the indigenous people still get those cheeses. Yeah, they get a lot. They get way more than they can ever use. They usually end up having to give it away, which they're not supposed to. If what I don't get this. If they can't use it all, they're supposed to throw it away instead of sharing it with somebody else who might need it. But they do anyway. And I appreciate that. But I don't get that. Throw it away if you can't use it? What a waste. That stuff doesn't make any sense. Oh, I know what the other thing was that I didn't get to before we started talking about the gardening that I wanted to show you. So I have this big, massive Bible that I bought years ago, mostly for here. It's big, it's kind of heavy. And I love that Bible. But now that we have a fellowship that we're going to on a regular basis, I'm like carrying this big, huge Bible. I'm like, I really don't. And I forgot I had a smaller Bible, and which is Patrick's old Bible when he was a little boy. First thing I'm gonna do is show you it in the crocheted. I made this years ago. I actually made it for a different Bible, so it's just a little too big for it. But I started using it on this. So it's just a crocheted Bible cover, and it's not my own pattern. It was one I found online for free. And if I remember, and if I can find that pattern again, I will try to link to it at some point. If not in the description box down below, maybe in a future video. But anyway, I'll show you this Bible. But oh yeah, so you open it up and that's how it stays in there. And you got the handle, so you can just carry it like this, almost like a purse. You got your little button thing, right? But I'll show you this Bible that was Patrick's when he was a little boy. Thing's pretty beat up. And he also got markers. So that was his Bible when he was a little boy. But it's smaller. It's not this massive thing. So it'd be easier to carry. But I decided, this thing's kind of old, a little too big. And I'm making a new one specifically to fit this. And I'm doing all single crochet out of this black speckled, flick fabric. And so I decided to do is like this one has what they call a cross stitch crochet. It's the double crochet and you cross it over. And I think I show how to do that in one of my crochet videos in the 101 series. But this I'm going to do all just a single crochet, so it's a nice tight stitch, and then it will have the same wraparound handles and the button closure and all that. So I'm really looking forward to that. It will be so much easier to carry than that big Bible, because not only will it be smaller, but it'll have the handles and everything. So yes. Anyway, just an idea for those of you who crochet. You can make your own little Bible cover and out of whatever yarn you have on hand, whatever you like. I had one beautiful one I made for my mother, and it was all I never got pictures of it. I even made little three-dimensional flowers and put it on there, and it was all in her favorite colors at the time were she was really into like the purple and lavender and turquoise and royal and greens, especially teal, all mixed together. And so I had this beautiful yarn with all those colors in there and then made the flowers. And yeah, I wish I would have taken pictures of it. I ended up with it after she passed away, and I thought I still had it, but I think I might have given it to someone else. I don't know. I've tried to figure out where it's at. But, I'd like to find it again because I could probably use that on my bigger Bible that's here. But I don't really need one here at the one at the house. It's nice for the ones you're carrying. So, see, what else do we have here? Any other questions I might have missed? Are you 2 still taking suggestions for series? For a series, like a series of videos or for live shows? Sure. Yeah, whatever. Um I know that people, by the way, I just want to say we really do appreciate having Patrick in here helping out in the chat and helping answering questions for me as well because I get brain cramps quite a bit. But sometimes he's busy doing other projects when I start, or he's out working on the property, so he can't always be here. But we do appreciate having him here when he can be, and all of my other moderators as well. Just want you guys to know, I think I forgot to say it last time, how much we all appreciate having you here, posting links if and need them in there or whatever. So remember, moderators, you have the power to go collect a link and put it in there. And some people have been doing that. Really appreciate that because when I'm talking and I I really don't like trying to go look for links. It's kind of a pain because I have to open a different window and blah. So I know that I was going to did I write it down? It seemed like there was something else. I guess I already said it about my Rain Country 2, just to remind everybody that I did so tomorrow I've got an old 2016 video coming out. One that I couldn't monetize on this channel, on YouTube anyway, because of the music I use, not knowing any better back then. So, but I can still have it. So I'm moving all those kind of videos, editing them a bit, putting them over there, and not all of them, just some of them, just so that I can have more videos over there to help build the watch time, and then putting everything. It doesn't matter if it's a short, a live show, a regular video, everything into one playlist called all videos, because some people were asking, can you just put all these in a playlist so we can just hit play all and have it playing in the background? Which I am so thankful people are doing that. It is helping for certain. So I'm pretty sure by now I've actually exceeded the first 1,000 watch hours that I need. I know I'm about to 10,000 views, but I need 4,000 watch hours, and that has really, really helped. So, and then the more videos I have coming out, obviously that's going to help too. So tomorrow I have a video publishing. Tuesday I have a newer one publishing. I don't think I'm going to go live there on Wednesday, but Thursday I think I have another video publishing. I think. So, and then I'll be moving some more of my shorts over there too, because they actually help my second channel better than they could. You don't make but a few cents off of a short anyway. It's usually just to help your channel, to lead people back to other videos. And so that's what I'm using it for. And putting it over there, not only does it help get that channel out there more, but excuse me, it'll help lead people back to the videos I already have here that people might not realize I have, especially since this channel is, kind of being a bit shadow banned. I'm seeing hope. I'm seeing hope that maybe having the second channel is helping it. I don't know, but I'm not going to try to depend on that too much. I'm still trying to prepare myself for a chance that it may just my 8.5 years of hard work going into this may all be gone in a heartbeat. I don't know. I pray that it's not, but if it is, well, I'm preparing for that just like I prepare for any other hard event that I might have to go through. So, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I so appreciate that so very much. And thank you, Trina, for putting the link to my second channel in there. And yeah, excuse me. I really appreciate that. So, yeah. And was there any other questions, by the way? What is this up here? Sorry, wrong button. I preserve meals quite often. When my husband had surgery and was hospitalized days apart, it was a blessing to only have to heat a meal already prepared. So true, Diana. Thank you for sharing that because sometimes people just assume, okay, Darlene, I hope I don't forget that. I'm gonna try to keep my cursor over this so I don't forget. Some people assume, people who just don't understand, and they hear that you're a prepper or whatever, or you're trying to be more self-sufficient, or you're trying to put up for hard times. People always make this assumption. They jump to this conclusion that, oh, you believe that we're going to be in a world without law situation, or which could still happen, or that there's going to be some massive pole shift, or there's going to be this, or there's going to be that. And those things could happen, maybe. But that's not necessarily why we do what we do. That's not why a lot of people did what they did back, because people, that's just the way they lived, right? And the purpose was so that, well, a lot of times it was just to get you through the winter because you weren't growing a garden in the winter time when snow was on the ground. So you had your food put up to get you through winter. But especially these days, it's more than that. You never know when someone in your family, your spouse, your kids are going to have some kind of accident where they end up in the hospital, or you just get really busy, you have a death in the family, and having some pre-made meals, either dehydrated, canned, or frozen, ready to go when those hard times hit, it just makes life so much easier. Or if it's a financial crisis, you can't afford to run down to the store and buy the groceries every week like you used to be able to do, but you have your own little grocery store at home because you were ready for that. And let me tell you, I've had so many people tell me how much that has got them through some very hard times because that very thing, whatever that crisis was that caused them some financial difficulty, they had a pantry full of food and they didn't have to spend their money grocery shopping. So many good reasons to be ready for anything. And, don't let people call you crazy or whatever. Just when they ask and they want to start ribbing you about it, just tell them, well, you know, give them real life situations, not things that they're going to see as a crazy conspiracy theory, something that will never happen. Of course, some people think even losing their job is never going to happen to them, or breaking a leg, or whatever. So, anyway, Darlene said, my thought is a series of videos on scrap to useful makes a wide range for both of you. Actually, Darlene, I already have a series on recycling, upcycling stuff. It's my own, but there's no reason why Patrick can't come up with some too, but it is a great idea, but I do already have one. Most of the ones I have in there are in relation to fabrics, like taking old t-shirts. What can you do with old t-shirts? Taking old flannel shirts and flannel sheets and other flannel fabrics. What can you do with those? And then I have one on jeans, but then I also have one on, um, I have more. Like, I know I have one on, like, plastic grocery bags, though most people can't even get those anymore because 'cause they're, you know you know, but you can take I recycle old plastic grocery bags for many things. For many years, I've used them as trash bags, so I don't have to go buy trash bags. How silly. Throw this grocery bag away, and then I'm gonna go pay money for some kitchen garbage bags or whatever. I just get smaller trash cans and then use the grocery bags instead. Um, and then I have a video that shows how you can take the plastic grocery bags and make a yarn, or also called plarn, plastic yarn out of it, to make plastic totes. They make great beach bags or whatever. I was making a lot of these and putting them in, giving them as gifts, giving them, putting them in auctions. There are local auctions, and I have one for myself. It does make a great beach bag because you don't have to worry about it getting wet or whatever. And if it gets sand in it, the sand will just sift out of it. It's great. So, yeah, I know there's more in there that I'm forgetting, other types of things. Oh, glass jars and bottles, like recycled, be they oil bottles, wine bottles, sparkling cider bottles, or olive jars, whatever, green olive jars. I tend to use those a lot. Nowadays, I tend to like those best for, I was putting a lot of nuts and seeds up in them, but now I'm finding I prefer to use them mostly for making tinctures and extracts, because they have they're one piece lid. The inside of the lid is coated. I don't have to worry about the alcohol eating through the metal. So those work really good for tinctures. I prefer those now. In fact, I'm going to be shooting a video soon. I'm hoping this next week. Well, it'll be probably 5 or 6 weeks before it publishes, but on making the elderberry spice tincture, and what I use in it besides the elderberries, and how I use it. So I'm looking forward to creating that video. I know I've talked about it and some this and that, but anyway, I'm looking forward to making a standalone video out of that. So I started canning soup and chili, cabbage casseroles, etc. I love it. My leg can't hold me standing to cook, not often, so I would go hungry because I didn't know what to have. I open a jar. Yep, it's so great when you can't do those things, you just go open a jar. Or my thing is, if I totally spaced dinner, like forgot to get something out of the freezer or forgot to get something cooking that needs all day to cook. Doggone it, I forgot. Oh, well, I've got some chili back there. I can open a jar of chili and just heat it up. It's great. Add some cheese and some fresh onions. Yeah, I use those olive jars for other things too. Like I have the grits that I'm working through. So I've been getting my grits now from Azure Standard. We love grits. And I've been keeping those in, like the ones I'm working through. I put them in the green olive, recycled green olive jar. And it just makes it easy. Keep it in the cabinet there. So yeah, I use them for stuff like that too. Things that I'm working through, things I don't have to vacuum seal, but things that when I do vacuum seal, that's when the chamber that Patrick makes comes in handy, because the size of the top on those jars, your food saver tops, vacuum sealing tops, don't, neither size fits. One's too small, one's too large, but I can put it in the chamber and vacuum seal it with the chamber, because that's what's great about the chamber. You can seal any jar that will fit in there that has its own lid. You can seal in the vacuum chamber. And so, yes, Patrick is still making and we are still selling them. And then for those people who are like in Canada, the UK, or whatever, that I can't ship that stuff to right now. Well, Canada, I don't think you can ship anything in Canada right now because of everything that's going on there. But normally I would ship to Canada, but the shipping can get quite expensive, and then you got to pay duty tax. So yeah, anyway, I always feel so bad that, you got to charge so much just to ship a product, or even to Australia, New Zealand. And we've shipped a lot of stuff to Australia and New Zealand, actually, a lot of chambers. But Patrick did type up the how to make the chamber yourself. And we sell and then I put it in a PDF format, and we sell that for $5. If people just want the instructions on how to make it. Since I don't know if I'll ever get around to making a video on it, that works. Can I dehydrate baked ham? As long as you freeze the ham first, after you bake it. You bake the ham, you freeze the ham, then you dehydrate it. So any meat, Doesn't matter if it's fish or whatever. As long as it's cooked, frozen, and then dehydrated, you'll get the right texture for being able to easily rehydrate. And it turns out like very much like freeze-dried meat. Postal Service is back on in Canada. Oh, okay. Thanks for letting me know that. Yeah, I didn't know that because I just had someone from Canada send me something. I'm like, I'm not even sure I can ship to Canada right now. But at any rate, even when I can, it's very expensive. It costs about twice as much just across the border. And we're in Washington State. Canada is just right above us. Costs twice as much. Even if we lived on the border of Canada, it would still cost twice as much to cross the border into Canada. And then they got to pay the duty tax when they go to pick it up. Crazy. Or I can set it up where the duty tax gets added into the total, but they still have to pay it. So I think I can do that with the program I'm on now, which by the way, little tip, if you're one that does a lot of shipping, I used to use stamps.com and I liked it because it made it easy. I could print off my labels, but I wish I would have realized this sooner. Well, so stamps.com charges you almost $20 a month, or it is $20 a month to use their service. Usually it used to be you could get a cheaper package, like if you're not going to do a lot and pay $5 a month. But you would still have to pay in money. Like you have money in your little stamps.com bank, and then it takes the money from that. So you might take it from, you might say, okay, I'm going to put $100 into that. And it would take it from that. When you run out, you'd have to put another $100. But what if you go through all that and you never have quite the right amount? That money's just sitting in there. It's a few cents, it's a few dollars. And that's so frustrating. Well, then I was finally able a couple of years ago when I didn't have near as many packages going out to be able to get my stamps reduced back down to $5 a month. And then suddenly I don't know when they did it, they bumped it back up to $20 a month. It was so irritating. It's like, how long have I been paying this $20 a month? $15 a month more. Then I found Pirate Ship. That's actually what it's called. Pirate Ship. I think the URL is like ship.piratesomething.com. But I think you can just look up Pirate Ship and then put in like shipping service or something. It's free. It has all the same features. It's easy to use. It costs nothing. There's no monthly fees. And then when I go to buy my label, obviously you still got to pay for your label. When I buy my label, it just goes straight to my credit card. So and it's the exact amount. So I don't have this weird amount out there somewhere. So I canceled my stamps. I was very irritated with them. So if you need a shipping program, even if it's just for your own personal use, you're shipping gifts to friends or family, and you don't want to have to run down to the post office or whatever, you can just print your own labels at home and then put the flag up on your mailbox, and they'll just pick it up. That's what I do here. Just put the flag up. If it's stuff that I know that's too big to go into the mailbox, they know where to pick it up. They know where to get it. And I just have a little sign that I put in there. It's like, okay, it's up there, but it works out good. I don't have to make trips to the post office all the time. And it saves me time and it saves me money. Should I try dehydrating my killer fish chowder? You should try it. You should try it. Killer fish chowder sounds really good, by the way. I was thinking about making some chowder again soon and using cod. I was thinking that sounded pretty good. So yeah, I try it. So just like I said, I would say do like a half cup or something and see how it works. Like me, I want to make sure I'm dehydrating more stuff than just like a half cup of soup or fried rice or whatever. And then once I get enough, I try enough, have enough in there, and then try it, and then try rehydrating each one and taste it. Then I'll do a video and let you know which ones turned out the best. But here's the fun thing is you can just start experimenting whenever you want. Just start with a small amount. So, if it turns out really terrible, you didn't waste much. but you got a lesson. So it was worth even that cost. You learned something. You learned what you can and cannot dehydrate or what does and does not turn out good. So experimenting can be so much fun. So it is pirateship.com. That is what the URL is. I was thinking that, and thanks for that, Deb. It actually has a picture of a little, well, it's not exactly a skull and crossbones. It's like a white smiley face with a crossbones. And yeah, because, and it's got the hole when you go in there. Ahoy! But it's free. I just love that. Okay, what am I trying to do? I always say this is a pain trying to figure out how to do this, but let me see. I've got a special link. Yeah, see, mine says ship.pirateship.com. Oh, I know why. You're right, Deb. You're right. I know why it says it's because I've got it going directly to where I'm going to actually need to print off something to ship. That's why the URL looks different. I get it now. So thank you, Deb. So yeah, pirateship.com. That is it. Okay, good. Good. And I don't know if that's available all over the world, but I know because I know you can do UPS there and maybe Federal Express through there. I just always use USPS because that's what works easiest for me. But I don't know if they have something like that for other countries. That would be nice to know. But I know I can ship through that to other countries internationally, except for the UK, because I don't have a VAT license and they require that. So, what time is it? Oh my goodness. It's already 10 to 2. So I got a pile of dishes to do. I got to cut Mr. Rain's hair. I got to edit a video and stuff. So I should probably get off here and get going. And yeah, just kind of catching up on some comments there. Get my stuff done. And again, thank you to all my moderators, including Mr. Rain, even though sometimes he needs a skillet over his head. And especially if I wait till after I cut his hair, he won't have as much padding on his head. Interesting. Anyway, so yeah, I'm going to get going. And thank you so much for everyone who came in here, all your questions, your comments, the fun, all the great stuff. I enjoy this so much. I know I said this in one of my last live shows, but I got to say it again. This truly brings me joy. I love doing this. There's something about, shooting the videos and all that. It's, obviously I enjoy that too. But there's something about this live and actually interacting with all you people live that is just so much more fun. I am so thankful I finally took the leap and got Starlink so that I could do this. It's just this alone is worth it. Anyway, love you all. Take care and God bless. See you in the next live.